Hello, science fans! Have you ever tried to organize your room? A pile for your clothes, a shelf for your books, a box for your toys? When you do this, you're classifying. You're putting similar things together to make sense of the mess. Well, scientists do the exact same thing, but instead of organizing a room, they are organizing all of life on Earth. It's a huge job, but it's incredibly important. We call this science taxonomy, and it's like being a detective for nature, looking for clues to figure out how every living thing is related. Imagine trying to find a specific book in a library, where all the books are just thrown into one giant pile. It would be nearly impossible. But when books are sorted by genre, author, topic, you can find what you need in a snap. Biology works the same way. By classifying organisms, scientists can study them more easily, notice patterns, understand the incredible story of evolution. It helps us see how a tiny bacterium and a giant blue whale are part of the same amazing family tree of life. Classification also allows us to communicate clearly. When a scientist in Japan talks about Homo sapiens, a scientist in Brazil knows they mean humans. It's a universal language for life science. They can share information about a newly found species, track the spread of a disease-causing microbe, work to protect an endangered animal. It all starts with knowing what you're talking about, and that's what classification gives us. A clear, organized way to name and group every living thing. So, putting things in boxes isn't about limiting them, it's about understanding them. It's a powerful tool that helps us see the big picture and all the tiny, fascinating details. Let's dive in and explore some of the biggest boxes that scientists use. Alright, so, if we're organizing all of life, where do we start? We start with the biggest categories of all, the kingdoms. Think of them as the main sections of our biological library. For a long time, scientists thought there were only two kingdoms. Plants, animals. If it was green and didn't move, it was a plant. If it moved around and ate things, it was an animal. But then, we invented microscopes and discovered a whole new world of tiny organisms. Things got a lot more interesting. Today, most scientists agree on a system that uses 6 different kingdoms. Each kingdom is a massive group that shares important characteristics. We'll look at their cells. Are they simple or complex? Do they have a nucleus? How do they get energy, make their own food like a plant, or eat other things like an animal? How many cells? Single-celled wonders or complex multi-celled creatures? These are the big questions that help us sort everyone out. The 6 kingdoms: Animalia, Plantae, Fungi, Protista, Archaea, Eubacteria. That might sound like a lot of names, but don't worry, we'll break them down. Each kingdom is like its own fascinating continent of life. From the familiar creatures in your backyard, to strange microbes in boiling hot springs. Every living thing on Earth belongs to one of these 6 groups. It helps us appreciate how diverse life really is. Getting to know these kingdoms is the first step to understanding the web of life. It's like learning the main characters in an epic story. Once you know them, the rest of the plot makes more sense. These categories help us trace evolution back through time. Get your explorer's hat on. We're about to tour the 6 kingdoms. Let's start with a kingdom you know very well. First up, Kingdom Animalia. This is our kingdom. You, me, your dog, bumblebees, earthworms, sharks, sea sponges. If you think of an animal, you're probably picturing a member of this group. All animals are multicellular. Multicellular. Lots of cells, not just one. Our cells are eukaryotic. They have a nucleus, plus other compartments called organelles. Think rooms for jobs. Another big thing, how we get energy. We are heterotrophs. We can't make our own food. We must consume other organisms to survive. Lion chasing a gazelle, cow munching on grass, human eating a salad. Most animals also move. We have specialized muscle tissues. Walk, fly, swim, slither. Often searching for food, searching for a mate, or a safe place to rest. Now for a fun fact, the blue whale is the largest animal alive and ever. Next stop, Kingdom Plantae. These are the green powerhouses of our planet. Tiny mosses, ferns, towering redwood trees, the beautiful flowers in your garden. Like animals, plants are multicellular and have complex eukaryotic cells. But here's where they take a very different path. Plants are autotrophs, which means they make their own food. They don't need to go hunting for a meal because they can cook one up right where they stand. Through a brilliant chemical process called photosynthesis. Chlorophyll, a special green pigment in their leaves, captures energy from the sun. They use that solar energy to turn water, carbon dioxide into sugar, their food. That process releases oxygen we and other animals need to breathe. So next time you see a plant, thank it for the air and the food. Fun fact, the oldest living individual organism is a plant. Methuselah, a Great Basin bristlecone pine in California. Let's talk about a kingdom that is often misunderstood, Kingdom Fungi. This group includes mushrooms, yeasts, molds. For a long time people thought fungi were just weird plants because they don't move. In fact, genetically, fungi are more closely related to animals than they are to plants. Like animals, they are heterotrophs, meaning they have to get their food from other sources. But they have a very unique way of eating that sets them apart from everyone else. Instead of ingesting food like an animal does, fungi absorb it. They are nature's master decomposers. Fungi release powerful digestive enzymes into their environment, onto a dead log, a fallen leaf, or a piece of old bread. These enzymes break down the complex organic matter into simple molecules, which the fungus then absorbs directly into its cells. This is incredibly important work. Without fungi, dead things would just pile up, and the valuable nutrients locked inside them would never be returned to the soil for plants to use again. Here's a mind-blowing fun fact. The largest living organism on Earth is a fungus. There's a honey mushroom in Oregon that covers over 2,200 acres. That's almost 4 square miles. Most of this organism is a massive underground network of tiny threads called mycelium. Now we enter the strangest kingdom of them all, Kingdom Protista. This group is basically the miscellaneous or junk drawer category of life. If a eukaryotic organism isn't a plant, an animal, or a fungus, it gets tossed into the Protista kingdom. As you can imagine, this makes for an incredibly diverse and bizarre collection of life forms. It's not a very neat group. Scientists are still working on how to better organize it, but for now, it's home to some of the most fascinating creatures on the planet. Most protists are single-celled microscopic organisms, but some are multicellular, like giant kelp, which can form massive underwater forests. The kingdom is so varied that it contains organisms that act like animals, plants, and fungi. For example, the amoeba is an animal-like protist that moves around and eats food particles. Euglena is a plant-like protist that can photosynthesize like a plant, but can also move around using a little whip-like tail called a flagellum. And then you have slime molds, fungus-like protists that crawl along the forest floor decomposing material. Here's a really cool protist fun fact. Some protists, called dinoflagellates, are responsible for the beautiful and eerie phenomenon of bioluminescent tides. When the water they live in is disturbed at night, they emit a flash of blue-green light. If there are millions of them, a wave crashing on the shore or a boat moving through the water can cause the entire surface to glow. Now we're diving into the microscopic world, starting with Kingdom Archaebacteria, or just Archaea. These are single-celled organisms, and like all bacteria, their cells are prokaryotic. They are famous for being extremophiles, which means they are lovers of extreme environments. Boiling water of hot springs, deep-sea hydrothermal vents, water that is saltier than the Dead Sea, extremely acidic conditions. Our final kingdom is Eubacteria. That's what people mean when they say bacteria. This kingdom is incredibly vast and diverse. Their members are found literally everywhere on Earth. In the soil, in the air, in the water, on your skin, inside your gut. In fact, you have more bacterial cells in your body than you have human cells. But the vast majority of bacteria are either harmless or incredibly helpful. Some bacteria, like lactobacillus, are essential for making foods. They turn milk into yogurt. They turn milk into cheese. They're also used in fermentation to make pickles, sauerkraut, sourdough bread. So the next time you enjoy a slice of cheese or a spoonful of yogurt, you can thank the tiny, hardworking members of the Eubacteria kingdom. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour of the 6 kingdoms of life. The moving animals, the green plants, the recycling fungi, the weird protists, the extreme Archaebacteria, and the everywhere Eubacteria. From creatures as big as a blue whale to microbes smaller than a grain of dust. This system of classification, this taxonomy, is more than just putting names on things. It's about understanding the relationships between all living organisms. It's about telling the story of life on Earth. It allows a conservationist to understand the biodiversity of a rainforest, a doctor to identify the microbe causing an illness. It gives us a common language to talk about the living world and a foundation upon which all other biological knowledge is built. Ultimately, studying the 6 kingdoms helps us appreciate our own place in the web of life. It shows us that we are just one small branch on an immense and ancient family tree. It connects us to the trees that produce our oxygen, the fungi that enrich our soil, and even the bacteria in our gut that help keep us healthy. So keep looking, keep asking questions, and keep exploring the amazing, organized, and totally awesome diversity of life on our planet. Science is all around us.